For years, you have been told that spirituality means calmness, that enlightenment looks like a soft smile, folded hands, and silence in the face of chaos. They told you that peace is the highest goal, that anger is dangerous, that rage is evil, that passion is destruction. But ask yourself this: if calmness was the key, why do you still feel restless? Why do you still feel like something is missing? Why do you still feel that fire under the surface? Because calmness, when weaponized, becomes a prison. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. You feel like you don't belong here. And the prison of calmness, spirituality, is exactly why. Are you a Catharsian? Take the quiz you'll find in the description to find out. The modern spiritual world preaches calmness as the ultimate goal. Meditation apps, yoga classes, gurus, they all tell you to silence your mind, to breathe away your pain, to smile no matter what. But calmness has been twisted into conformity. It is no longer about imbalance, it's about obedience. Calmness has been sold to you as a drug to keep you numb. Think about it. Who benefits when you're calm in the face of lies? Who benefits when you breathe deeply instead of speaking out? Who benefits when you accept injustice as part of the divine plan? The system benefits, the manipulators benefit, the very forces that want to keep you asleep benefit. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. Because your soul knows calmness is not the truth. Your fire refuses to be smothered. Calmness is not wrong in itself, but it was never meant to be the destination. It was never meant to be worshipped as the highest frequency. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. Calmness is for those who are content with illusions. Calmness is for those who want to belong to a world on lies. Calmness is for those who gave up the fight. But you've always felt restless. You've always felt that fire. You've always known that spirituality cannot be about sitting quietly while the world burns. They told you the great masters were calm, serene, untouched by emotion. But history is clear. True visionaries were not calm, they were disruptive. Jesus flipped tables in the temple. Buddha walked away from his family and throne. Prophets screamed in the streets. Revolutionaries burned with fury. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. You feel like you don't belong here because the truth inside you cannot settle for serenity. Calmness was never the path of the awakened, it was the tool used to silence them. Download your free guide below: 10 signs you were never an ordinary soul. People told you to calm down your entire life. Don't be so intense, don't raise your voice, don't make waves. But they weren't protecting you, they were protecting themselves. Because your fire scared them, your truth threatened them. Your refusal to swallow lies made them uncomfortable. That's why you've always been misunderstood, not because you were wrong, but because you were real. You were never ordinary, you were never meant to fit in, and the world of calmness spirituality cannot handle someone like you. Have you noticed how calmness is always preached to the oppressed, but never preached to the oppressors? The poor are told to meditate on abundance, the abused are told to forgive, the silenced are told to accept, the broken are told to heal quietly. Meanwhile, those in power rage freely. They destroy, manipulate, conquer, and then tell you to breathe deeply and accept it. Calmness spirituality is not freedom, it is control. It is the prison built to keep your fire asleep. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood, because your rage refuses to bow. Every time you tried to bury your rage, it became stronger. Every time you tried to meditate it away, it clawed back to the surface. Every time you told yourself to be calm, your chest grew tighter. Why? Because rage is sacred. Because the truth is fire. Because your soul knows what calmness spirituality refuses to admit. Without fire, there's no transformation. You feel like you don't belong here because you don't belong to their world of silence. You belong to the world of fire, rebellion, and awakening. Calmness asks you to sit still. Catharsis asks you to burn. Calmness tells you to accept. Catharsis tells you to reject lies. Calmness tells you to smile. Catharsis tells you to roar. Calmness tells you to silence yourself. Catharsis tells you to remember who you are. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. Because calmness cannot contain you. And all this because you're a Catharsian. Take the quiz now to find out. The truth is simple. You feel like you don't belong here because you don't. The world was designed to reward the calm, obedient souls who never question, never resist, never burn. That's why you've always felt like the black sheep. That's why every spiritual group made you feel restless. That's why silence never satisfied you. Because you're a Catharsian, and Catharsians were never meant for calm. Catharsians were meant for fire. Awakening is not calm. Awakening is violent. Awakening is shattering illusions, ripping apart false beliefs, burning identities, and facing truths that tear your soul wide open. Calmness avoids this. Calmness refuses to look. Calmness says everything is fine. But you know it's not fine. You know the world is broken. You know the lies are thick. You know silence only keeps the prison locked. That's why you've always been misunderstood. That's why you've always felt different. Because awakening is not calm, it is catharsis. The prison of calmness spirituality is real, but you don't have to stay in it. Stop apologizing for your fire. Stop burying your rage. Stop shaming yourself for refusing to smile in the face of lies. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. You feel like you don't belong here because you don't belong here. You don't belong to their system. You belong to the truth. You belong to the fire. You belong to the Catharsians. Download your free guide. You'll find in the description box 10 signs you were never an ordinary soul. The prison of calmness spirituality is powerful, but it cannot hold you forever because deep inside your fire is stronger, your rage is louder, your soul is older. And you know this calmness may silence the world, but fire transforms it. Calmness may numb you, but rage awakens you. Calmness may imprison you, but catharsis frees you. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. You feel like you don't belong here because you don't. You belong with the Catharsians.